Hi class, this is Mr. Pyrus. What we're doing is we're trying something new and a little bit different, and hopefully this will be helpful to you. What we're going to do is do a review for test 18. I know you guys are getting most of this already, but let's just go and give you a last step, your last chance to review here. So let's give it a shot here. Let's jump right into it. Here's our first review question. It's a question of scale, and of course plans, maps, they cannot be to the same size of the object that they're representing. So in the case of house plans, you have a small, maybe 3 feet long map, and that represents the entire size of the house. In this case, your scale is going to be 1 inch is equal to 4 feet. So what does that represent? Well, how long does it have to be on the plans to represent an 18-foot room? So what we do is we go 1 inch over 4 feet is equal to however many inches we're looking for over 18 feet. Does that make sense? That's good. So basically then what that breaks down to is x inches is equal to 18 feet over 4 inches. No, over 4 feet, my bad. Okay? And that's equal to 4.5 inches. So it's really not that hard to do. So that's our first problem. Let's move on to our next problem. Okay, a small town occupies a rectangle of land. It's shown to be 4 times 10 to the 6 millimeters in length, and its width is 3 times 10 to the 6 millimeters. And the question is, how do you go and express the area of the land, town in scientific notation? So the first thing that we do is we add 3 times 10 to the 6, and the area is by multiplying the length times the width times 4 times 10 to the 6, and that will give us 12. 3 times 4 times 10, and we add the 6 and the 6, we get 10 to the 12th. And that's a good answer, except that's not in scientific notation. 12 is not between 1 and 10. So what we need to do is we need to divide the 12 by 10, so we end up with 1.2. And since we've divided this by 10, we will multiply the 10 to the 12th by another 10. It's 1.2 times 10 to the 13th. And that's your answer in scientific notation. Let's go to our third question. Price of an item was $48 plus the 7.5% sales tax. What's the total price? So the total price, keep in mind, it's got to end up being more than $48. So you can go and you can say it's $48 plus 7.5% or 0.075 times $48. But the way I would rather see it, because this reduces your steps, is it's going to be 48 times 1.075. The 1 represents the price of the object. 0.075 represents the price of the sales tax. So it's 100%, which is 1, and 0.075, which is 7.5. And when you multiply that out, you're going to come up with $51.60. And what I'd like you to do while you're going through this is just try and multiply this out. Now, of course, in the test, if you make a mistake in multiplication, that's all right if you do the process right. But I'm really concerned that you do the process right and you have 1.075 times $48. Now, we go with our next one. We have a probability question. A coin is flipped 4 times. What's the probability of getting heads 4 times? Well, the first time you flip it, it's 1 out of 2. The second time you flip it, it's 1 out of 2. So if you want to get the heads 2 times, it's 1 out of 2 times 1 out of 2. So you see the probability of getting heads 2 times in a row is 1/2 times 1/2 or 1/4. But you're asking here what is the probability of getting it heads all 4 times? So it's 1 out of 2 times 1 out of 2 times 1 out of 2 times 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2 4 times, or 1 out of 2 to the 4th, 1/2 to the 4th, and what that gives you is 1 out of 2, 4, 8, 16. So 1 out of 16 is the probability of getting heads all 4 times. Our next question is, what is the lateral surface area of this triangular prism? And so basically what we're looking for in this is we're trying to get the area of this side, the area of this side, not the triangle, but of the side, and the area of this side. So how do we do that? We go and we can add together the areas of those 4 sides, and we could just go 6 times 8 plus 6 times 8 plus 6 times 8. But an easier way to do that is to take the perimeter of our triangles, which is 6 plus 6 plus 3 times 8, which is our height, and that'll be our solution. So 6 plus 6 plus 3 is 15 times 8 is equal to 120 centimeters. In this case, it's squared. We're looking at area. We're not looking at volume. We're looking at area. So that's what we have, 120 centimeters squared. Now, we got another probability here, and this is a bag contains 10 marbles, 4 are red, 3 are blue, 2 are yellow, and 1 is green. And the question is, if you're going to take 2 marbles out of the bag, one at a time, what's going to be the probability that you get 2 blue marbles? So the first time there are 10 marbles, and 3 of which are blue. So the probability the first time is to get 3 out of 10 marbles. But now we're doing a second time. Now the second time, how many marbles are in the bag? There's only 9 marbles in the bag. And how many of them are blue? There's only 2 blue left. So the way you do this is you multiply the probability of the first draw times the probability of the second draw, and this should be your answer, which will give you 6 out of 90, or we reduce that to 1 out of 15. Alright, our next is the volume of a pyramid. Now, the base is going to be 6 feet by 6 feet, which is 36 feet, and the height is going to be 4 feet. But in a pyramid, it's not the same. Now, if it was a prism, then it would just be the base times the height. But we're not dealing with the base times the height here, or we're dealing with the prism. We're dealing with the pyramid, and the area, or I'm sorry, the volume of the pyramid is equal to 1/3 the base, area of the base, times the height. So that's equal to 1/3 of 36, right? A 6 by 6. Oh, we'll go 6 by 6 for starters. Times the height, and it says the height is 4 feet times 4. Okay, so 1/3 of 6 by 6 is going to be 12 times 4 is equal to 48 cubic feet. Where are we here? Okay. Now, we go with the sequence. And you know I love sequences. So it says, which of the following equations is a rule for this sequence? Okay? 6, 11, 16, 21. Now we see this is an arithmetic sequence. And as we look at it, we can see that the difference between each term is a difference of 5. So 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 5 is 16, plus 5 is 21. So basically what we're looking at is the terms are multiplied, each term is multiplied by 5 to give you the terms here, or to give you the results. So it's 5 times n. So a to the n is 5n, but that would just be 5, 10, 15, 20. So we have an offset of 1. So it's 5n plus 1, or a is equal to 5n plus 1, which is b in this case. Now, you can do this by elimination also, because a to the 1 is n plus 5. In this case, that would be 6, but if a is 2, that would be 7. So a doesn't work. You look at c, which is a to the n is 6n minus 1. So when n is 1, a to the n would be 5, so that's already eliminated. And then finally, you've got a to the n is equal to n times 6. Now the first one is 6, but when n is 2, then you've got 12, and that eliminates itself also. So by elimination, you can see that the answer is going to be also. So go and do some testmanship here and work your way through this. Okay. Our next problem says which of this following represents the union of the set of prime numbers and the set of composite numbers. Now, the prime numbers is 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so on. The composite numbers is the non-prime numbers, which would be 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So the union is all of the inclusive. It's not just the distinct ones, because if it was the intersection would be the null set. But the union includes all the numbers from 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, in our curriculum, 1 is not a prime number. In some curriculums it is, but in ours it's not. So we just go with 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's your answer. Okay, so now we have a set of equations here, and we try to find what is the solution to the set of both of these equations. Now we can do this by graphing it, and you know how to do that. You draw it, you make x is 0, when x is 0, y is 6, and y is 0, x is 6, and you can draw that line, and then you can set the other equation to y is 0, so x would be negative 2, when x is 0, y is 2, and you can draw that line, and the intersection is going to give you the answer. But what we're going to do is we're going to do this by setting up our equations. And you can go and use all of these various ways of solving it to go and verify what you're doing. But let's go first. We're going to add these two equations together. So we have, what happened there? I just lost it. Okay. So what we have here is we have x plus negative x is going to be 0. Y plus y is going to be plus 2y. And that's going to be equal to 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. So that means divide both sides by 2, and y is equal to 4. Now, what we do is we replace that back in there into x plus y equals 6, but we change y to 4, so we have x plus 4 equals 6, so that we subtract 4 from both sides, and x equals 2. So in this case, we have a solution where we have the ordered pair 2, 4, which is pretty much what we're going to get when we graph. Now, let's look at this another way. Okay. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go and set y is equal to 2 plus x in our second equation, okay, or x plus 2. So what we do is we replace that into our first equation. So we change that to x plus, in that case we use y equals x plus 2 equals 6. And so that means 2x plus 2 equals 6, or 2x equals 4. So x now equals 2. So x equals 2, and then we replace that back into our y minus x equals 2, and y minus 2 equals 2. So we add 2 to both sides, and y is equal to 4. And again, we come up with the ordered pair, 2, 4. So these are various ways to do this problem. So you can try any one of them. Any one of them should give you a good answer or solution to the problem. Our next problem, what is the area of this trapezoid? We know that the area of a trapezoid is equal to 1/2 times, remember this formula, base 1 plus base 2 times your height, right? So in this case, base 1 is 22, base 2 is 14. Your height is going to be, and keep this in mind, your height is not this side here, but your height is your perpendicular from the base, and that's going to be 8. Okay, so it's 1/2 times 36, or 18 times 8 times 8 is equal to 144 inches squared. Let's look at our next problem. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to cheat on this and give you a little bit of a drawing. But the vertices of the parallelogram ABCD are A is 0, 0, or the origin, B is 4, 0, C is 5, 3, and D is 1, 3. So let's do a drawing of this, okay? And we say, what is the area of this parallelogram? So the area is going to be of a parallelogram, like every other parallelogram, area is equal to base times height, right? That's all we got. So what is our base? We can see our base is here, which is 4. So equals 4 times our height. And what is our height? Our height is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4 times 3. So our base is times height is 4 times 3, and our area is equal to 12. And that would be 12 units squared, or any way we want to look at that. Okay, let's go on to our next problem. Vertices of parallelogram ABCD are 0, 0, 4, 0, 5, 3, and 1, 3, which is very similar, close to what we had last time, right? It's exactly the same, actually. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to dilate it by a scale factor of 2 from the origin. So what are the coordinates of that going to be? Oh, come on. So here's how we look at this. And you see, here's our original parallelogram. But then we dilate everything by 2. Now, what do? All we do is we just multiply all of the coordinates by 2. So in the case of C, which is 5, 3, and that's what we're asking for, right? C prime is 5, 3, so it's just multiply everything. So it's 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3, or what am I doing? I'm sorry. It's 3 times 2 is equal to 6. So your point is going to be 10, 6. And that's basically what 10, 6 is over here. All right. That was 10, 6. So let's move on. 5/9 is a percent and has a decimal rounded to 3 decimal places. Well, what we need to do first is we need to go and find out what the decimal is first, and then we can figure out what the percentage is. So the decimal is 5/9. So what we do is we divide 9 into 5. We're going 3 places here. And we end up with 0.5, 45. Okay. 5. 5. Okay. And that's going to be what it is, but 0.5 is going to be rounded up. So really, as a decimal, it's going to be 0.556, right? So round that to 3 decimal places. So what's that going to be in percentage? 5.556 would be 56%. And you can go and say it's 55 and 0.6%, but that doesn't help you any anyway. So I would say just keep that as 2 significant numbers, and it's 56%. Alright, our next problem. Expand 5x times 2x minus 3. So all we're going to do is distribute the 5x. So we end up with 10x squared minus 15x. You want to know something? There's nothing else that you can do with that in this question. So all you're doing is you're expanding it. It's not asking you to solve for x. Don't go and make this problem too hard. This is a simple problem. 5x times 2x is 10x squared. 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. Don't try to make this any harder. Okay. In our next problem, the area of a square is 25 square units. So what does that mean? That means that's a 5 by 5 square, right? So how many units is the diagonal of the square? Well, what that means is that this triangle is 5 by 5, and this is a right triangle. So the question is, what is going to be this side? And that side is really just the hypotenuse, right? So it's 5 squared plus 5 squared is equal to, our side square, and we'll call it c squared, right? So that means that c squared equals 25 plus 25, and that means that c is equal to square root of 50. Now, this is where it gets tricky. This is the square root. Okay? Now, so c is equal to the square root of 50. And so now, what is that? The square root of 50 is equal to 25 times 2. So the c is now equal to 5 times the square root of 2. And that's the easiest you can get. Now, keeping in mind, going back as we think about this, that means in an isosceles triangle here, this angle here is 45, and this angle here is 45, And we know that in an isosceles triangle, the hypotenuse, isosceles right triangle, the hypotenuse is going to be each of the sides times the square root of 2. So that's another way to work this. That's to verify what you're doing, but it's not hard. Your hypotenuse is simply 5 times the square root of 2. Okay, now I'm going to solve for the unknown variable. Okay, so what we do first is what we all want to do is just isolate x, right? So the first thing we do is we subtract 0.05 from both sides. Okay, and we ended up with 0.2x is equal to 0.06. So we just divide both sides by 0.2. And x now is equal to 0.6 over 0.2. And that means that x is now 0.3. And that's pretty simple there. All right. Let's move on. Oh no, we got another unknown variable. So, what do? 1.5 over 25 is equal to 0.3 over n. So, let's solve for n. So, all we do is we go and move the n around so that we can just make n times 1.5 times 1.5 is equal to 0.3 times 25, right? So let's isolate the n further. N is equal to 0.3 over 1.5 times 25, which means that n is equal to 0.2 times 25, which is equal to 5. And that's your answer. It's not that hard. Don't make these problems any harder than they are. Just go and figure out what you're doing, make it simple. Alright, we're almost done here. And now it says simplify the expression x to the negative 2, y cubed, x cubed, y 0. So, y 0 is 1. So we can just eliminate that. We don't have to even worry about that. So we have x to the negative 2, and then we have x cubed over here. So it's plus 3 times y cubed. And so negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So we have x to the 1, which is x, times y cubed. And you know what? That's all it takes. It's not that hard of a problem. So that's your answer. Now, our final review question. And this is going to be, let's just figure this one out. You have 3 to the 5th times 2 to the 10th. Well, how are you going to do that one? Basically, what you have is you have 3 times 2, and you can just times square root of 5 times the square root of 10. Okay, so what do we do with that? So that becomes 6 times, let's go and put everything under the radical for now. Square root of 5 times the square root of 10 times 10, which is the square root of 50. And so we got 6 times square root of 25 times 2. And so where we're going to end up here is we'll bring the square root of 25 out of the radical. We end up with 6 times 5 times the square root of 2, which totals this thing to 30 times the square root of 2. Can I do this? I have a problem with that. And that's your answer. 30 times the square root of 2. This is not a hard one to do. So, class, this is pretty much the review for the test. As you know, the test will be very similar to these problems. So, feel free to give it a shot. Relax. It's no big deal. It's fun. Enjoy it. Go through these again a couple times, and you'll have a great time with this, I hope, I'm sure. So I know you guys are great. I know you guys will figure this out, and really expecting some good success on this test for you guys. So God bless you, and we'll see you in class.